All right, let's dive into Garware High-Tech Films Limited. You sent us a ton of stuff, financial reports, the Q2 FY25 earnings call transcript, presentations, even credit rating reports.
Yeah, someone wants to know what's driving their success, right?
Yeah.
Especially that revenue growth.
Exactly. Well, GHFL just hit a major milestone. Over INR 100 crores in profit after tax for the first time ever.
That's huge. And their revenue.
A 56.3% jump year on year. They're at INR 620.6 crores now.
Wow. But they're not just focused on top-line growth, it seems.
Right. Their EBITDA is up too, a massive 103.3% increase. Clearly, they're keeping an eye on profitability as they grow.
And if we look at their Q2 earnings call, it seems a lot of that strong performance is coming from their high-margin products, that premium stuff.
You're hitting on something key. It's not just about selling more film, it's the right kind of film. And speaking of selling more, they're running their paint protection film line at over 135% capacity. No wonder they're investing in a whole new PPF line.
It's like they're sending a clear message. PPF is the future, and they're going to be major players. That new line's supposed to be operational by Q2 FY26.
Big bet on the future, right? But how are they doing compared to their own predictions? Back in their Q1 FY25 call, they were aiming for a full-year revenue of INR 2,000 crores.
And now?
Now, in the Q2 call, they're projecting INR 2,500 crores for FY26. Looks like they're feeling pretty good about their growth trajectory.
Yeah, they're ambitious, but we need to look at their performance across different sectors to really understand this.
Agreed. The Q2 call breaks it down. Sun control film, paint protection film, those are the stars, especially the high-margin stuff. But then there's their industrial products division, the IPD.
Oh, right. That was underperforming a while back, wasn't it? What changed?
Looks like it's back on track.
Yeah.
Seems like their strategy of focusing on those specialized high-margin films is paying off across the board.
It's a good strategy. And remember, they're not just relying on organic growth. Back in their Q1 call, they mentioned potential acquisitions, too. Adds another layer of intrigue, don't you think?
Acquisitions. Now, that would shake things up. What companies are they eyeing? Are they trying to solidify their position or branch out into new areas?
We'll have to wait and see. But for now, what about their market share? I mean, they've already got a decent chunk of the global SCF market, 8–10%, according to the July 2024 credit rating report.
Yeah, from Care Ratings, right. So how do they plan to hang on to that and even expand? They're clearly aiming for a similar level of dominance in the PPF market, and that new line's a big step towards that.
Right, but what's the strategy beyond just more capacity?
Well, in their Q2 call, they talk about their flexible production. Some of their lines can actually switch between making SCF and PPF, depending on what's in demand.
Smart. Keeps them adaptable. It's like having a secret weapon against the competition.
Exactly. But they're not just relying on that flexibility, they're emphasizing innovation too, constantly developing new stuff to stay ahead of the curve. And remember, they were the first in India to ditch PVC for that recyclable PPG.
Showing they're serious about sustainability as well.
Huge selling point these days. Consumers are definitely looking for those eco-friendly options.
You're right. Smart move by GHFL. But it's not all sunshine and roses, right? The credit rating reports, even though they're positive overall, do highlight some potential challenges.
Yes, let's not get too carried away. What kind of risks are they flagging?
Well, one big one is those raw material prices, especially anything tied to crude oil. That could really hit their profitability if things get volatile.
True, and their Q1 transcript did mention a lot of their materials are linked to crude oil prices. How are they handling that?
It sounds like they're looking into new materials, trying to find alternatives that aren't so dependent on oil.
So basically trying to outsmart the market by diversifying their sources and finding more stable options.
Makes sense. But raw materials aren't the only thing they have to worry about, are they?
Nope. The credit rating reports also bring up Forex fluctuations. With 77.6% of their revenue coming from exports in FY24, they're definitely exposed.
That's a lot of exposure. Did they talk about this in their calls?
They did, in the Q2 one. They mentioned exploring new geographic markets, trying to spread their revenue out more.
So basically trying to balance things out globally so they're not too reliant on any one region.
Exactly, spreading the risk. But there's one more challenge from the reports that we haven't touched on yet.
Oh, right, the regulatory stuff. They mentioned the industry being sensitive to government regulations, especially anything related to environmental concerns or those automotive films.
Yeah, that can be tricky. Regulations can change quickly, so companies have to be adaptable. What's GHFL doing about that?
Well, they haven't laid out a specific plan for dealing with particular regulations, but their focus on sustainability and innovation suggests they're trying to stay ahead of the game. Investing in eco-friendly materials and technologies could put them in a good position as regulations evolve.
Like they're building a business model that can weather any storm. But beyond these broader challenges, I'm also curious about the people running the show.
Me too. We've focused on numbers and strategies, but what about the personalities behind it all?
The earnings calls give us some glimpses. We hear from Deepak Joshi, the Director of Sales and Marketing. He seems really passionate and knows his stuff.
I noticed that too. He's a true believer in GHFL. And then there's A. Venkataraman, the Senior President of Corporate Affairs and Finance. He seems more analytical, a bit more measured in his approach.
A good balance. Enthusiasm on one side, a calm head on the other. Makes for a well-rounded team, ready for anything.
It does, but what I find really fascinating are those little comments that give you a sense of the company's personality, their way of thinking.
Like what?
Well, remember in the Q1 call, they said their strength is the quality and the response to the market by delivering new products. It's a simple statement, but it tells you a lot about their philosophy.
They're not just followers, they're trendsetters. Makes you wonder what they're cooking up in their R&D labs.
Absolutely, but before we get into that, let's circle back to their market strategy. They mentioned something about being very targeted with which cities and segments they're going after.
You're right. In Q1, they talked about their success in the automotive sector and how they're now focusing on those Tier 2 cities in India. Very deliberate and calculated.
It's like they're building a fortress brick by brick, making sure each market is strong before moving on. But how are they getting their brand and their value across in these new places?
That's where their premium market positioning comes in. They're all about high-quality, high-margin products to differentiate themselves from the competition, especially those lower-end players.
Quality over quantity. Classic approach. But how do they make sure that resonates with customers?
They're investing a lot in branding and marketing, both in India and abroad. They're also building a strong network of distributors and applicators, especially for the PPF line.
It's not just selling a product, it's selling an experience,
Yeah.
creating a whole ecosystem around their brand.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're rapidly expanding those Garware application studios across India, places that exclusively sell and apply their products.
Smart. Gives them control over the whole customer journey. Builds loyalty. But let's not forget about innovation. Are they just sticking to their existing products, or are they pushing the boundaries?
Oh, they're definitely pushing boundaries. They've got a dedicated R&D team, over 50 people, all focused on developing new products and technologies.
And they're not shy about showing off their accomplishments either. Their Q2 presentation is full of awards and certifications they've received. Everything from TPM Excellence Awards to the Skin Cancer Foundation Seal of Recommendation.
They've earned those bragging rights. Shows they're serious about both quality and innovation. That's a powerful combination.
Absolutely. But there's one more thing about their operations that really intrigues me. Their chip-to-film operation. What does that even mean, and why is it such a big deal?
Basically, it means they control every step of the production process, from the raw materials, the chips, all the way to the finished film.
So they're not reliant on outside suppliers for key components.
Exactly. Gives them a lot of control over quality and cost.
And probably lets them be more flexible and responsive to market changes. They can adapt their production, launch new products faster, even manage their environmental impact better.
It's like having all the pieces of the puzzle right there in-house. Huge advantage. But before we go any further, what's your overall impression of GHFL's Q2 performance? What really stood out to you?
Honestly, it's their strategic approach to growth that impresses me most. They're not just chasing numbers, they're making smart decisions based on a deep understanding of the market and themselves.
Not just playing the game, playing it smart, and doing it with a focus on quality, innovation, and sustainability. Makes their story even more compelling.
I agree. This is a company that's on fire. Makes you excited to see what they do next.
Me too. But before we get into their future plans, let's take a closer look at the management team. We've heard from a couple of key players in the earnings calls, but what else can we learn about the people running the show?
Good point. We know they're experienced, successful, but I'd love to get a better sense of their individual personalities and leadership styles.
Let's see what we can dig up. But first, a quick recap. We've covered a lot. Record-breaking performance, ambitious growth, their focus on specific sectors and markets.
Their sustainability efforts, their drive for innovation.
It's been a whirlwind tour of GHFL. But before we go any further, I want to ask our listener, what's resonated with you most so far? What sparked your curiosity?
Keep those questions in mind as we continue our deep dive into the world of Garware High-Tech Films Limited.
Picking up where we left off, I'm really curious about those leaders at GHFL. We've gotten glimpses from the earnings calls, but I want to know more, about their backgrounds, their leadership styles.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But honestly, the materials don't go that deep into their personal stories.
True. Still, I think we can piece together some insights just from what they have said, how they present themselves, like when Mr. Joshi talked about their focus on quality and the response to the market by delivering new products.
Right. It suggests a very customer-focused approach. They want to solve problems for their customers, not just make things.
Exactly. And it's not just about product development either. It's that whole ecosystem they're building with the Garware application studios and all that. They want to make sure the customer has a good experience all the way through.
They're controlling the whole journey from start to finish. Shows how much they care about customer satisfaction.
It's about building those relationships. And that's got to be important in a market like this, right? Especially films, it's got to be competitive.
For sure, you need to stand out. And GHFL seems to be doing that, not just through innovation, but through that whole customer experience.
It's like they're saying, we're not just selling you film, we're selling you peace of mind.
Powerful message. And it seems to be working, right? Look at their growth, their market share. Clearly, they're onto something.
They're killing it. But let's not forget about those challenges we talked about.
Oh.
What about those volatile raw material prices, forex fluctuations, the regulatory stuff? How are they handling all that?
Well, they're not just sitting around and hoping for the best. They're actually taking steps.
Like what?
For one, they're diversifying geographically, spreading their reach to reduce their exposure to any one market.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Smart. It helps protect them from downturns or instability in specific regions.
Exactly. And they're also exploring new materials, trying to move away from those traditional raw materials, the ones tied to crude oil prices.
So basically outmaneuvering the market by being adaptable.
Exactly. They're anticipating change, not just reacting to it.
And that's what separates the successful businesses from the rest, right? That ability to adapt and evolve. Seems like GHFL gets it.
They're not just riding the wave, they're making their own waves. But what about Forex? That's a big one for any company that operates globally.
True. And they are addressing it. On multiple fronts, actually.
Oh, how so?
Well, first, there's that geographic diversification we just talked about. Spreading their revenue out more reduces their dependence on any one currency.
Makes sense. Kind of a global balancing act.
Exactly. But they're not stopping there. They're also using sophisticated financial hedging strategies to minimize the impact of those currency swings.
So locking in exchange rates, protecting themselves from those unpredictable ups and downs?
Basically, it's a complicated world of finance, but the point is, they're not just winging it. They're strategic about managing that risk.
Very strategic. It shows a real sophistication in their approach. But let's shift gears for a minute. We've talked a lot about numbers, growth, all that. But what about their impact on the world, beyond just the financial stuff?
You mean their social and environmental responsibility? Yeah, it's important to look at that too.
Absolutely. Are they really committed to sustainability, or is it just talk?
From what we've seen, they seem to be walking the walk. Remember, they were the first in India to switch to that recyclable PTG.
Right. That's a real investment in reducing their environmental footprint.
And it's not just about the materials they use. They've got strict environmental standards at their manufacturing facilities, too.
So thinking about their impact at every stage of the process, a holistic approach.
Exactly. And it's not just the environment either. They're investing in their employees, the communities where they operate.
Like those training programs for employees.
Yeah.
Investing in their people.
Yeah, and they're involved in all sorts of community development projects, too. Infrastructure, conservation, economic empowerment.
Trying to make a real difference, not just write a check.
It's like they're creating this virtuous cycle where their success helps the community, which then creates a better environment for their business.
It's a win-win. And it's refreshing to see a company that really gets that understands that true success isn't just about the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's about making a positive impact. But let's be real. Every company has its weaknesses. What about GHFL? What should we be watching out for?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is their reliance on that single manufacturing location.
Yeah.
You know, the one in Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, Aurangabad in Maharashtra.
Ah, so all their eggs are in one basket, geographically speaking. Pretty much. If something happened there, a natural disaster or some kind of disruption, it could really hurt their production.
It's a scary thought. Are they aware of this risk? Doing anything about it?
They are. They've got a solid disaster recovery plan, and they are exploring ways to diversify, maybe add another location.
So they're planning ahead, not just ignoring the problem. That's good.
Definitely. But even with the best plans, a major disruption at their main facility would be a big setback.
True. But every business has risks, right? The important thing is to know what they are and have a plan.
And they seem to be doing that, facing their challenges head on.
Good sign. But their location isn't the only challenge. Remember how competitive the specialty films market is?
Oh yeah, they can't just sit back and relax. They need to keep innovating, stay ahead of the competition.
It's a fast-moving market, and they need to be able to move with it.
They've been doing well so far, but to keep that up, they'll need to keep investing in R&D, finding those strategic partnerships, really understanding what their customers need.
It's a constant race.
It is. High stakes. But they seem like they're up for it.
They do. Talent, resources, vision, they've got it all. But they need to be smart about those risks and keep adapting.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? Managing growth, minimizing risk, staying true to their values.
And ultimately, that's what will determine their success in the long run. You know, we've talked about their numbers, their operations, the challenges, their sustainability efforts. But what about their corporate social responsibility initiative?
Oh, right. We touched on that, but it's worth a deeper look. What are they actually doing? What kind of impact are they having? It seems like they're not just focused on profits, you know. They actually want to make a difference.
Yeah, the materials highlight three main areas: education, healthcare, and community development.
Pretty broad scope. They're not messing around.
It seems that way. They've got these educational programs set up to help underprivileged kids, recognizing that education's key to breaking that cycle of poverty.
Investing in the future, both for the community and for themselves in the long run. Smart.
Exactly. And they're not just throwing money at the problem. They're working with local organizations, trying to build something sustainable, something that really works.
So about healthcare, what are they doing on that front?
They've teamed up with a local hospital to set up a mobile health clinic, bringing healthcare to those remote areas where it's harder to access.
A mobile clinic, that's amazing. Makes such a difference for people who might not be able to get to a doctor otherwise.
And it's not just basic care either. They're doing health education programs, preventative screenings, really trying to make a difference in people's lives.
Not just treating the symptoms, but getting to the root of the problem.
Exactly. It shows they've really thought this through.
Impressive. And what about those community development efforts?
Oh, they're doing a lot there too. Infrastructure improvements, environmental conservation, economic empowerment.
Trying to lift up the whole community, basically.
And in a way, it makes good business sense too, right? A stronger community means a better environment for their business.
A virtuous cycle, everyone benefits. But I'm curious, what's the motivation behind all this? Is it pure altruism, or is there a strategic element too?
I think it's a bit of both, honestly. I mean, they seem to genuinely care about doing good. They've been involved in these kinds of initiatives for a long time, not just since it became trendy.
So not just a PR move.
Doesn't seem like it. But let's be real, doing good can also be good for business.
How so?
Well, consumers are more aware than ever. They want to support companies that share their values, companies that are making a difference in the world.
So by showing their commitment to CSR, GHFL is building a better reputation, attracting new customers, strengthening those relationships with existing ones.
Doing good and doing well.
Finding that sweet spot where purpose and profit come together.
But it's not always easy, right? I mean, every dollar they spend on CSR is a dollar they're not spending somewhere else. R&D, marketing, expansion.
True. It's a balancing act. How do they decide how much to invest?
I don't think there's a magic formula. It depends on their financials, their industry, their goals. A lot of factors.
They need to find that balance where they're making a real impact without hurting their own business.
And from what we've seen, it looks like they're doing a pretty good job of that.
They're showing that it's possible to be successful and responsible.
Setting an example for others to follow.
Hopefully inspiring other companies to think bigger, to consider their impact on the world.
Absolutely. It's a powerful message. So, to our listeners, if you're looking for a company that's doing things the right way, GHFL is worth checking out.
They're making waves in their industry and in the world.
Well, we've covered a lot today. Their financials, their products, their growth strategy, their commitment to sustainability, those inspiring CSR initiatives. It's been quite a journey.
A fascinating deep dive into a company that's clearly doing a lot of things right.
We've learned about their strengths, their challenges, their vision for the future.
And hopefully given our listeners some valuable insights.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more we know about the companies we support, the better choices we can make. So keep asking questions, keep learning. There are so many great stories out there in the world of business, and we'll be here to help you uncover them.
Until next time.